ける気がしないよ今
Starting in episode 40, Evol is now collecting lost bottles, full bottles that don't originate from Pandora's box, but were instead created by Shinobu Katsuragi. And fun fact, the full bottles that the Hokuto trio had were lost bottles. Now, in episode 40, by the way, Sento and Kazumi go to Hokuto to find more clues surrounding Sento's father and his involvement with Evol. And at one point, Kazumi takes off to the Foss base in Hokuto and gets a fatal dose of nebula gas that if he gets close to death in battle, he will die immediately. I mention that because it's set up for the end of the show. And at the end of episode 40, we now learn that Sento's father is alive. And in episode 42, another thing that'll come up again later is that Ryuga takes a dragon full bottle to use that turns silver all of a sudden. And as for the episode, Shinobu finally reveals himself to Sento and the others as another KamenRider build. So, what I just said right now is that Sento's dad is basically, well, alive. And he's taking the form of KamenRider build, most likely from all the full bottles that Evol still has. Episode 43, Shinobu faces Cross Z, Grease, and Rogue. At one moment, Cross Z is prepared to annihilate him, and Sento gets in the way of him finishing him, and, okay. I have to make a complaint about this one thing. Sento transforms within the time it takes for Ryuga to end Shinobu is impossible, because once he's done, Shinobu would be dead before his helmet even manifests on. Now, why would the writer and the director make time and physics not make sense in a show about physics? Anywho, after Shinobu gets away, Ryuga is injured and Kazumi and Gentoku can't trust Sento at a time where they can't afford to pull their punches. What Evol and Shinobu's total goal is, this time, is to create a new world that surpasses the current laws of physics, whatever that means. Yeah, the rest of the episode, would I say is important or filler? I'm just asking a question here. Misora, for some stupid odd reason, goes to Evol to find a way for Sento to help his dad and gets turned into a smash. And I'm watching this on my screen and I'm thinking, why would that be a smart idea? At what point shouldn't it occur to you that it was not a good idea?
Sweet mother of God, you dumb bitch! I do believe you are the stupidest sack of shit I've ever seen in my life, and I have lived, goddammit!
And to save her, Build switches Vernage from inhabiting Misora to Ryuga. Also, Sento gets back a rabbit full bottle that turns gold. Once again, will be saved for later. Episode 44, Kazumi and Gentoku incidentally sneak into one of Foss's bases to raise their hazard levels, to be more of use to Sento and Ryuga. Once those two save them, after Ryuga leaves with them, Sento's dad lets him go. Afterwards, Sento and Ryuga are testing out a new device that's the opposite of Cross Z Magma's Magma Knuckle called the Blizzard Knuckle. And the episode tops off with Sento having a sense of urgency and goes off to face Evol alone, until the others follow after to face Evol together. The Blizzard Knuckle gets itself to work, and they manage to beat Evol together for once. And in episode 45, coming off of the last episode, another build shows up and picks up the 3 lost bottles that Evol dropped, and the Evol driver, with Evol's presence absorbed inside, captured in a tin. He leads the Rider crew inside Pandora's tower and reveals he's actually been waiting to backstab Evol and defeat him. But sadly, that turns itself around on the professor, as Evol possessing Yutsumi instantly kills him. And yeah, well, that's an ability we kind of already know by now. Evol can spread his genes around, so he can still be at one place, but send a piece of himself somewhere, from like when Ryuga was born. But now that he has all the Lost Bottles, he unites them on a black panel from Pandora's box and evolves into his final alien form. And, ooh, I need a moment to breathe and cough. But yeah, Evolve's final alien form. It's pink, but it is rather alien. It has the most terrifying ability too, where it could destroy a planet and absorb its energy from it to make itself stronger. So it gets points for being scary. So how they beat him afterwards this time is that before Shinobu died, he tells Sento about a white panel that Evol doesn't know about, and it's accessed through the hazard trigger, which is what Sento uses with Genius form to beat Evol. Now, I'm going to get a quick cup of water. I have no idea how long that's been out, so I'm going to... there's my cup of water. And yeah, I'm recording in my kitchen. Yeah. Yeah, like the YouTuber, trying to take a small break, and please check for instructions. And all work and whatnot for me to check out later, per se. Yeah, it's something I can check out later. Anyway, yeah, I'm taking a break. I know what I'm doing. I've been recording since yesterday, and now it's morning. I did manage to get good lighting in, so that's why I moved from my living room into my kitchen. Yeah. Alright, now I can get back. Alright, small break's over. So now, before getting into the next episode, the Be The One movie takes place here. But remembering that movie, which, by the way, I have reviewed it. It's still up on my channel. Go check it out if you want. Remembering certain aspects of that movie, like Sento being able to go rabbit tank, I think it's pretty clear that it's non-canon, but we actually see it towards the end of this episode, a couple of the characters from that movie, which are like the new prime ministers or something. But yeah, with certain details from that show and how that is, plus think about a couple other details that are either left out or are pushed to the side, it's like, I honestly think the movie is non-canon. But I mentioned it because it takes place between episodes 45 and episode 46. And speaking of which, of episode 46, we are now touching base on the last 4 episodes. Team Build adds the hazard trigger into Pandora's box, and boom, they get their white panel, along with a new plan to defeat Evil once and for all. With the white panel, they can take nullified Lost Bottles and use Pandora's box to merge worlds. They're essentially going to take advantage of multiverse theory and combine their universe with the parallel universe that doesn't have the sky wall and create a whole new world with no sky wall, no Pandora's box, and no Evol because he will be killed in the distortion process. With this going into the future, and I'm talking franchise and story-wise, this will assimilate Build into the main continuity of KamenRider, because of course, after this show, we get KamenRider Zio, and the first 2 episodes are a tribute to Build. So back to the story, Evol issues a final challenge to the Riders to storm Pandora's tower to stop him, and while inside the first challenge, it's for Kazumi, as Evol uses his genes to create duplicates of the Hokuto trio, and to fight and beat them, Kazumi pulls out the Blizzard Knuckle and Shinobu's build driver, and doing so, Kazumi gambles his life by properly utilizing the Blizzard Knuckle, because doing so will push his body past the set limits too far. Like, from the fatal dose of Nebula Gas he already had before, like, if he uses that driver and transforms and goes how far with it, either dies or finisher, he's done for. And he does it. I've already played the Mr. Spot clip before, but you get the idea. So, let's talk about Grease's in-show final form, Grease Blizzard. I'm not really much to talk about. Like, it's Grease, but he's blue. He gets a claw arm. Yeah, at least he finally got a form change. I'll give him that. Then, yeah. This, going into episode 47, it happens. Kazumi dies. Hey. Before then, Yutsumi helps Gentoku against clones of the Engine Bros, but there, he dies, but yeah. Katsumi's dead.
Yo.
Episode 48, we're almost done. Evolve starts creating a black hole to absorb Earth, and Rogue charges in to break the Evolve trigger, and dies doing so. This is going to be another funny moment for me to laugh off now, because in the whole scene where Rogue just charges in to break the trigger and dies afterwards, he's the only one doing it. Like, Sento, Ryuga, Misora, they're all just laid up on the ground, and they don't have any sense of urgency to get up and join him. He just does all the work. But yeah, Rogue breaks the Evolve trigger and dies afterwards, tragically. But with the Evolve trigger broken, the black hole is stopped, and they manage to get all the lost bottles when Evolve's body spits them out and add them to the white panel. And with that, Pandora's box is complete and a new world begins to create itself. But what kind of penultimate episode would it be if there wasn't one more sacrifice, as Ryuga takes Evolve out along with himself as he flies the two of them in the Rift of Light. Episode 49, our final episode. Sento flies into the Rift to bring back Ryuga, and Evolve is still around and has absorbed Ryuga, and they have one final fight while the Rift is closing. Sento goes through all of his upgrades until he gets down to Rabbit Tank, and soon uses the Rabbit and Dragon Full bottles to go Rabbit Dragon. It's a gold and silver build form that we literally see for 20 seconds at best. Not even 20, I think like 10 seconds until we see Rabbit Tank again, just kicking the hell out of Evolve, beating him. After Evolve is defeated, the world is saved and a new world is born, with no memory of the Skywall. Sento is fine, and for some reason, maybe as a nod to Zio, he's holding a ride watch. Either way, He's the only one who remembers everything, while everyone else who died or didn't is alive and living normal lives. Except for Ryuga, who also happens to be there thanks to his alien side saving his memory. No, okay. This next part, what I'm about to say next is about to sound bromancy, but this is a good finale for tipping off Sento and Ryuga's friendship because, well, they really are the best match. What did I just say? Oh my god. What did I just say to entertain the masses? Why did I say that? Oh god, like what I said. What I said, it's bromancy because it pretty much, yeah. Like, pretty much, yeah, that's what it is. They're it's pro. I know what I said, okay? Like, that's a guy friendship, basically. That's been some of the good moments of the show, when they realize and do things for the sake of their friendship. The show officially ends with Sento recapping the last 49 episodes, because like most famous physicists, he writes his own autobiography. As long as Toei doesn't try to copyright claim it, I'll read it. And that was KamenRider Build. All in all, on second watch, this show is not bad. I definitely think I got a kick out of things more from my first watch, but even on second watch, I still liked it. Like, when Ryuga becomes Cross Z, that was my favorite episode of Build, and it's still on my list of favorite episodes from this show. The second arc, I think, was pretty phenomenal because, I don't know, just, for one, it definitely hits differently now because of the war between Russia and Ukraine. So, looking at things there while watching that second arc where a war is happening and all Sento could do is just blame himself and whatnot, it made me feel some type of way about everything in a good way, and it makes me want to sympathize. The first arc, however, is not bad. The first arc is actually, I think, possibly the best arc from this show because there's an ongoing story and mystery, while the second arc is just, I don't know, the second arc is the second arc where it makes one more sympathetic. Third arc is fine. The fourth arc, I actually remember that certain people, I think I remembered when the show, once we hit like the fourth arc, that's where people started not liking the show. But looking back on it now, the fourth arc's not bad. It's the end game. And I'm definitely, if I can be fully honest right now, this show, it's definitely underappreciated and underrated. And it deserves a lot more appreciation. Like I said, I still remember when this show was concluding and people were treating it as so underrated. And even back then and still now, I completely disagree. Like, in terms of tone, this show is concrete and consistent with what it's presenting overall. I think the one thing that probably hits the wall for some people would probably be the villains. Specifically Evol, which let's actually talk about him first since we can start the character analysis. Evol is probably what steers people differently about the show, because in theory Evol is not a bad villain. He's just overly complex. Like, he has his plans for like world domination or destroying the planet or whatever, but it's just all the steps and plans to get there that make you go, why the hell is he just doing all of this? Where he could have just cut it down some and boom, world is his. Because, yeah, pretty much. Like, what's an example I could think of? Possibly from like the start of the start of the show, like when Katsuragi decided he was going to quit Faust and he was going to beat Bloodstark himself. Then Bloodstark staged a death for Katsuragi to appear dead, but he's not actually dead, so he needs to get rid of him because he's still used to him. But with Ryuga coming over, instead of trying to absorb him, he instead frames him for murder and makes him have to go through so many things and makes Sento have to go through so many things where if he really wanted to just destroy the world, he could have just cut it down short right there and then. And yeah, pretty much. But by explaining all that, you get what I mean. Or at least I hope you get what I mean. But while we're talking about Evolve, let's might as well talk about him as a character. Pretty much that, his flaw is that he's overly complex. But acting-wise, I think the actor they got from him was a smart choice because he's very, well, I wouldn't say laid. Yeah, I would say he's laid back and suave with it, and he's very easygoing about playing a villain, and that is so entertaining, because then once you hear his voice change and go a little more evil, you're frightened of him a bit more. So, as a villain, Evol is not the worst, but he also isn't that bad. Alright, so now, for the rest of the show, let's next talk about Sento. Sento is honestly like Tony Stark, Iron Man. He's responsible for anything that happens involving the bad guys in the Iron Man show. No, not show, movie. Words. Let's blah blah blah. Thoughts together. Yes, Sento is like Tony Stark, Iron Man. Like, if you've seen the Iron Man movies, then you would know that Iron Man is responsible for half of the issues within the movies that he causes, but he knows when to make up for them. That's basically Sento. Like, he blames himself for being the cause of everything, but to be fair, it wasn't his fault. Like, he created the gear and everything, but he never wanted to cause a war or screw over the planet, most definitely. Sento is definitely one of the few that goes through growth and change because, well, he needed to. With all the situations he was in, he needed to grow and change. And for the better, really. Although some of his ideas weren't helping, now I'm specifically talking about the second arc, he at least comes through to realize, I can't allow this to happen, personally. So next, Ryuga. Ryuga, I think, still has to be my favorite character because he too grows throughout this show. Like, throughout the second arc, too, he had the right idea that this is a war that we need to fight in just so we can end it, so life isn't hell for anyone. I completely sided with Ryuga the entire time, where he decided he was going to get recruited. But yeah, Ryuga's also, I want to say, that one character I sympathize with the most. Like, from losing his girlfriend and also being framed for murder, it's like, you can't blame him for how he starts off, but you do appreciate where he ends up, because being with Sento and his friend and their group, it changes him all for the better. And so, yeah, I like Ryuga. He's possibly my favorite character from this show. So next, Misora. She was a lot more useful in the She was a lot more useful in the first arc. If we're talking like the second, third, and final arc of the show, she does admittedly take a bit of a backseat. Like, yeah, she's possessed by Vernage, but Vernage only shows up but oh so often. And at the end of the show, she just disappears. Like, but for Misora herself, as the leading lady, she wasn't bad. But I just think she served a purpose more early on, because later on she doesn't, I guess you can say, help out as much, because afterwards it's Sento inventing new form after new form. But she's there most likely as more of a confidant for everyone. And so next, Sawa. Oh, sorry, I was just like checking time for a second to see how long I can record still for. Anywho, Sawa. Once again, she was a lot more useful in the early half of the show, but later on, she was kind of delegated to the sidelines, just like Misora. But she's at least useful for gathering information, so I can give her that. But no, that's all I can really say. She was actually a spy, but then she realized what she was doing was wrong. Well, twice. But out of all the characters that were part of the heavy Nampa Industries, she's the one who really got out. Like, yeah, I don't know, that much I can really say about Sawa. So next, Kazumi, Grease. Grease, possibly my second favorite character. Despite how people feel about him, which once again, another example of why some people probably feel differently about the show now from where it aired, is because character quirks that are a complete 180 to the actual person. But for Kazumi, it's at least a part of his personality that he has a creepy crush on Misora because of her online personality, Mitan. And, yeah, put yourself out on the internet and you're gonna get some stalkers and creepers. But Kazumi as a character, and that's at least not his full personality. Because you can see he's a humble guy who was drafted into this war literally for his friends and for his capital. But yeah, he has to be the second sympathetic, right next to Ryuga, because we see someone who is drafted into the war go through so much and see so much happen. From losing his friends, from worrying about his friends, for worrying about almost everyone, to the point where he's willing to give up his own life. I really appreciate Grease. He is awesome. And his driver is my favorite in the show, so yeah. Finally, Gentoku, Rogue. He is an interesting character. Well, let me rephrase that. He's an interesting villain because at first he wasn't about wanting to take over the world. He was a politician. He wanted to unify Japan. But the problem with him was how he wanted to do it. Instead of wanting to work together, he would have rather gone to war and conquer. But like what I said, he's not a bad guy. He's more of a political villain. Because once he gets that epiphany and how powerful everything in evil actually is, that's where he started taking a step back. And personally, I think his father's death really did something for him, because after that, he is left on his own to reevaluate his ideas and how to go about things, to where it honestly seemed to make sense to want to join the build team. Though at first, of course, after doing everything he's done up to now, they wouldn't just be easy on him just like that. Or at least Kazumi would have. But, yeah, in that short time period where he was a fashionista, why was that a choice? I think what they were trying to do was, X8 came right before Build, so they were trying to do another Dan Kuroto, and it did not work. And it obviously did not work. But at least he settled with, like, the leather jacket, because, dear God, those outfits are... They were just out of character, is all. But, yeah. Right, so, we just... Oh, yeah, last person we could talk about could be Yutsumi, but there's not much about him to really talk about. He was just... I didn't particularly care for him as a character, because he was so delegated to the back that once he became Mad Rogue, I honestly didn't care. Hell, I honestly didn't care so much about when he became Mad Rogue. I honestly would have been fine if, after Genius Form premiered, he was killed off immediately. Or hell, when Genius Form debuted, Sento could have murdered him right there and there, because one less villain to deal with. And so, now, to fully wrap up the review, I am going to read the comments off of, well, Facebook, because I just posted, well, a couple days ago, that I finished KamenRider Build, and, as usual, I'm going to read your guys' thoughts on the show. So, on the Toku Infinity Facebook group, I posted thoughts on Build because I just finished it and enjoyed it, which I did. So, I'm going to skim through some of the comments that, if they all sound the same. But if there are any ones that are different, I'll most definitely read them. Oh, speaking of which, Thomas Lynch, a person we all know who's been in my videos before, this is Thomas's comment. Despite its issues, I overall enjoyed it. And, I can feel the same way about Build. And so, Patrick Trevia Vine, adore Build, I'd say still my favorite series, and Build, Crossy, and Grease are my personal favorite writers as well. Nice. Alright, this is from a group admin, John S. Cutler. One of my absolute favorite series, such a great cast and great series. I think they wasted the Namba Heavy Industries plotline for Evolve. I think both villains should have been together. Alright, I can understand that. Like, the Namba Heavy Industries, they were there. Well, I wouldn't say they were there, they took a backseat along with everything else that Evolve was much more at the forefront. But, yeah. Let's see here. Suetureto ora. I don't know what I just read. I'm not butchering anything. I'm just trying to spell out how this guy from, I want to say, somewhere in the east type, like, named up. Anywho, here's his comment. And also a sweet, like, picture that he had that I will hopefully post up on here. Anywho, his comment, bittersweet to the core, but really memorable. Wait until you watch the additional movies. Oh my god, this show has movies that I have still yet to see. And right after this, I'm gonna watch the Cross Z movie. Alright. Oh god, I like this one comment. Mark Sayo's Meja. Watched for the Filipina singer. Stayed for the bromance. Those low-key I love you bro moments. I'm gonna reply back to that comment. Me too, brother. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God, that comment was hilarious. Oh God, alright. Alright. Alright, I want to, like, where was I? I lost track. Alright, here we go. Here's one comment. Oh, it's a negative comment that I want to read from Angel Nantavallo. Not a fan. They tried to make the protagonist a cocky scientist, but that only showed when he bragged about a new invention. The rest of the time was the same Kamen Rider main character fighting to protect people's smiles. Not a bad thing, just repetitive. But secondary writers were really good with very good chemistry. The story was messy, not sure how to explain this or not without writing a Bible. They abused the trope. This was the villain's plan all along. This can be a really cool twist, but it happened too many times to the point of feeling cheap and making everything that happened pointless. Too many forgettable forms that didn't really receive enough screen time to actually care about them. I think Build was the beginning of this trend. One of the forms what I love about Kamen Rider is seeing new forms, but too many just to ditch them a couple of episodes later is a deal breaker for me. I completely understand that to a T. And I'm wondering whether or not if I should make a video on that. Like, with how many forms writers have, what are useful and what are just thrown to the wayside. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys want to see that video, because I will definitely make that happen. And that's actually something I can work on after this. And so, I'm going to read one more comment until I get to now the second group I posted it on. Okay, from Ronald Budsey. Great series, and could have been the best Kamen Rider series ever, if not for the abysmal final arc. I don't know, looking back on it now, I don't think the final arc was that bad. Like, I'm being fully honest, I did not think that the final arc of the show was that bad. And, but then again, that's just me. Like, I looked at the final arc as the end game just happening. But that's just me. Alright, so now, I'm now on the Dudes in Spandex Facebook group, where there are some comments. Now, I'm going to skip one because it's a back and forth with two fans, but I'll just read the two. So, from Mark Roslenberger, it was different, that's for sure. A good different, though. I can actually agree to that. The show starts off pretty differently. Oh, and we're going to wrap up this comment reading section, not out of nepotism, but reading a comment from longtime viewer, Ray Hayes. What up, man? Build is a different show, but it is also a real show that pretty much cements what a Kamen Rider is and what they should be and stand for. Since 1971, Kamen Riders have stood for one thing mainly, a hero, and that's what the villains try to use it to their advantage and for their personal agendas. And we have a protagonist that was too constantly reminded everyone, including the viewer, what that meaning is, and this is something I love. Alright, I can get that and respect that. And so, I just got done reading your guys' thoughts on Build, and yeah, once again, to wrap up with my thoughts, Build is a good show. I think it's on that line of being about average and above average. Like, the characters were nice, the villains were, say what you will about the villains, but the story that was presented was totally sweet. And we gained something new each time from it. And I can take that away from Build. I enjoyed it. I was going into this show hoping I didn't hate it because a couple of years after that show ended, people are like, oh, Build, that show was just so, nah. But really, it's not. Build is actually a great show, honestly. And for what we see here, a lot of people seem to enjoy it. I know I enjoyed it. There were a couple of things I hated, but I don't hate the show overall. I liked it. And so, with that said, next time, finally, as I'm stretching... Oh, fuck, my legs are asleep now. My legs are asleep now. Never mind, they're fine. Oh, no, they're... Anywho, what show am I doing next? And it's something that I've been meaning to do for a long time, because Build was meant to come out in like January or February, but I kept pushing it back. Sorry. But after this, the next show I'll be reviewing will be the most recent Sentai, Zenkaiger. How funny or so, really, that I'll be reviewing KamenRider's 45th anniversary. No, not KamenRider. Super Sentai. My brain's on overload right now. Anywho, next, we're reviewing Zenkaiger. We'll be looking at Super Sentai's 45th anniversary a year after the 45th anniversary. But, yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Please never forget to like, subscribe, share this video, and tell your friends about KamenRider Blackman. Tell me more what you guys like about Build in the comments down below. If you guys want to see that video on form changes, on which some are too many or whatnot, tell me that in the comments down below. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.